Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is an achingly beautiful late summer evening here in London. Yet I realise with a pang that the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness will be on again all too quickly. One thing I love to do in London in the summer, it's one of my London summer rituals, one of the most important ones actually, is to go swimming on Hampstead Heath in the mixed ponds, which happens to be very, very near the house where most people think John Keats wrote the stupendously brilliant poem Ode to Nightingale. So whenever I do this, I can't not think about Keats when I go there, even if it's just a swim, because you can look around the house now too. It's one of my favourite poems in the English language or any language. In fact, I think, and this may be a bit of a pretentious thing to say, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway, I think it sort of even surpasses itself as a poem. It is a spellbinding piece of work, and for that reason I sort of see it as much as a spell as a poem. It's not just a piece of poetry, it's also kind of a piece of druidry in the way that the poet espies a vision of eternity through nature here. The other thing to remember about this, it's been quite well talked about, but if you don't know a lot about Keats, you may not know it. Keats knew he was dying when he wrote this poem. Not only had he studied as a surgeon himself, but he had seen his mother, one of his brothers and his father claimed within his own lifetime by tuberculosis, the same disease that he was dying of when he wrote this poem. And that makes the kind of meditations on death in the poem so kind of accurate. You know they come from a place of real experience. This is not just some young man, you know, musing about death in some silly way. These are the kind of real emotions he was going through at the time when it was written. For that reason, and this is a very embarrassing thing to admit to, I do sometimes get a little bit choked up when I read it. I'll try not to, because it will announce to the entire world, or at least to the entire world who watches YouTube, what a soppy git I am. I'm just going to try and read the poem. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Ode to Nightingale by John Keats. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and Lethe wards had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen greens and shadows numberless, singest to me of summer in full-throated ease. Oh, for a draught of vintage that have been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and Provençal song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Fade far away, dissolve and quite forget what thou amongst the trees hast never known, the weariness, the fever and the fret, here where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre-thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow, and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on the viewless wings of poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retards. Already with thee, tender is the night, and haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays, but here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness guess each sweet, wherein the seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild. white hawthorn, and the pastoral eglantine, fast-fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk-rose, full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. Darkling, I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many a mused rhyme to take into the air my quiet breath. Now, more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight, with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a sod. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when, sick for home, she stood in tears amid the alien corn. The same that hath oft times charmed magic casements, opening on the foam on perilous seas in fairylands forlorn. Forlorn. The very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my sole self. Adieu. The fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu. Adieu. Thy plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried in the next valley glade. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake or sleep?